evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the February 8th Kilba Hills Board of Commissioners meeting. We will call this meeting to order. And if you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we move into our moment of silence, a couple of comments this evening. First, many of you may know David Henderson, who lives in town. They suffered a house fire the other week, and thank you to our officers, our police and fire that responded. They did lose one of their family pets in the fire, and so they lost a lot of possessions as well. They certainly are highly complimentary for the response that our staff provided. But if you'll keep David and his family in your thoughts, their boxer mix was a rescue, Heidi, passed in the fire. And also, on a very, very tough note, it's with deepest sympathies, and it's a bittersweet night, I know, for many of you here, representing the fire department and fire auxiliary, as one of your brothers lost his wife this morning. Sergeant Jack James's wife, Danielle, had been battling cancer for many years, passed this morning after a very vigilant fight. And we ask for you to certainly keep Jack and his daughters in your thoughts. Some of you may know too, that have been employed in the town for many years. You may remember Betty Cozart Hawkins. She did the town's accounts payables for many years. After Betty retired, she and her husband Dick moved to Maggie Valley some years ago. Betty passed away early Saturday mornings from complications of COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. She's being cremated, and there will be a memorial service on March 12th at their residence area in Maggie Valley. So, heavy hearts this evening as we head into our moment of silence. And with that, I call for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. You may recognize or see Travis Appleman. Commissioner Appleman is not here tonight. This was a planned absence that he had a scheduled trip. We knew this going into the meeting. And Casey Varnell is here representing us with legal services this evening, as Steve had a conflict. So with that, we'll move on to the first item this evening is agenda approval.
Second.
Any discussion or comments? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll move now to the first time that's set aside this evening for public comment. There'll be two opportunities, this one at the beginning of the meeting, and there'll be another one at the end of the meeting. This is an opportunity for anyone here that wishes to speak to the board on any item to feel free to do so. We do ask that if you're speaking as an individual, if you would try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you're speaking on behalf of a group, if you could limit those comments to 5 minutes. We did have a sign-up sheet. We only have one person that signed up, so we'll start with Jack, but then look to the floor if there's anyone that wishes to speak after Jack. So Jack Flight, welcome.
Thank you.
And when you approach the podium, if you don't mind identifying yourself by name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Jack Flight. I live at 407 Seal Court. I'm happy to say I've lived in Kilba Hills for just over 30 years now. Really enjoyed it. I work with the Environmental Health Unit of the Dare County Division of Public Health. Some of you may recall that January was National Radon Action Month. Radon is an odorless, colorless gas that's found naturally in the ground. It can seep into homes and businesses through their foundations. And it's actually the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States. For the second year, we received free radon test kits from the state, and we made them available to the public. Last year, we only gave out 20. this year I decided to ask for some help, so I polled the local municipalities to see if they would be willing to be distribution sites. And I got favorable responses from Kitty Hawk, from here in Kill Devil Hills, from Nag's Head, and Commissioner Rubottom over at the Bomb Center. And we also made them available down in Frisco at the county office there, as well as our office here in Kill Devil Hills. This year, we more than tripled what we did last year. This year, we gave out 67 kits. And the lion's share actually came from here in Kill Devil Hills, by the administrative staff here with the town, as well as Commissioner Rubottom's staff over at the Bomb Center. Together, they distributed 36, more than half of the kits altogether. So I just wanted to publicly come and say thanks to all the help of the town, as well as the Bomb Center as well. Thank you.
Thanks very
Thanks,
much,
Jack.
And I thank you guys back out to Jack for doing this. At the health department, it was optional for health departments to sign up and accept responsibility to distribute the kits. And Jack volunteered to do that and take on that for us. So thank you as well to you for doing that. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this public comment opportunity? Anyone this evening? Okay. No worries, there will be another opportunity if you so choose at the end of the meeting. Let's move on. Okay, we will move then on to introductions and presentations. The first is a presentation of the North Carolina League of Municipalities commemorative resolutions. I will call on Debbie to. Everything's up there. Yeah. Okay. We've switched our technology around a little, so bear with us as we have transitioned from paper to pretty much everything's electronic now. So do you have a paper? That's all right.
You want to come and?
I will. I'd love to.
Great.
So, but if we have paper, I can do that.
We have a budget stuff here.
Yeah, sure. I was going to say that.
Okay.
All right. So at the October 2015 North Carolina League of Municipalities Conference, 9 resolutions were adopted in honor of the retirement of Kill Devil Hills employees. Former Customer Service Supervisor Kathy Miller, he's with us this evening, Customer Service Representative Ruth Griffin, and Fleet Maintenance Mechanic Louis Davenport are here tonight to accept the League's resolutions. But I will list all 9 that were provided resolutions at that meeting. Don Brown, Senior Water Plant Operator. Debbie Caton, Office Assistant. Louis Davenport, Fleet Maintenance Mechanic. Ruth Griffin, Customer Service Representative. Mike Hunter, Fire Captain. Kathy Miller, Customer Services Supervisor. Nancy Miller, Office Assistant. You probably remember Nancy in planning. Lee Partridge, Code Enforcement Officer, and Jim Riley, Sanitation Equipment Officer. And let's see, we have the official.
We have technical difficulties, Houston.
Well, while you all are finding the official copies, I will read the resolution. And first, Kathy, would you join us up here? So whereas Kathy B. Miller retired during the past year, having served the town of Kittle Hills faithfully and well for 32 years, 6 months. And whereas the work of Kathy Miller benefited the citizens of the town of Kittle Hills and upheld the standards of excellence in municipal governance. Now therefore be it resolved by the membership of the North Carolina League of Municipalities meeting an annual conference on this 12th day of October 2015, hereby honors Kathy Miller, former Public Services Department Customer Services Supervisor of the town of Kittle Hills for faithful service and lasting contributions to municipal government. Be it further resolved that this resolution be made part of the permanent records of the North Carolina League of Municipalities and that copies be forwarded to Kathy Miller in the town of Kittle Hills. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Ruth Griffin? Hi there. Thank you for being here this evening and congratulations. Make sure they can hear us. So whereas Ruth Griffin retired during the past year, having served the town of Killable Hills faithfully and well for 28 years, 6 months. And whereas the work of Ruth Griffin benefited the citizens of the town of Killable Hills and upheld the standards of excellence in municipal governance. Now therefore be it resolved by the membership of the North Carolina League of Municipalities meeting and annual conference on this 12th day of October 2015, hereby honors Ruth Griffin, former Public Services Department Senior Customer Service Representative of the town of Killable Hills, for faithful service and lasting contributions to municipal government. Be it further resolved that this resolution be made a part of the permanent records of the North Carolina League of Municipalities, and that copies be forwarded to Ruth Griffin and the town of Killable Hills. Thank you so much and Thank you. All right, and Lewis Davenport, or Louie?
Louis was afraid we'd put him back to work. He didn't. Okay, we have vehicles lined up out there.
That's right, and thank you for being here. So whereas Lewis Davenport Jr. retired during the past year, having served the town of Killable Hills faithfully and well for 24 years. And whereas the work of Lewis Davenport Jr. benefited the citizens of the town of Killable Hills and upheld the standards of excellence in municipal governance. Now therefore be it resolved by the membership of the North Carolina League of Municipalities meeting an annual conference on this 12th day of October 2015, hereby honors Lewis Davenport Jr., former fleet maintenance mechanic of the town of Killable Hills, for faithful service and lasting contributions to municipal government. Be it further resolved that this resolution be made a part of the permanent records of the North Carolina League of Municipalities, and that copies be forwarded to Lewis Davenport Jr. and the town of Killable Hills. Thank you so much. So did anyone do the math really quickly and add up how many years of service just those 3 employees? That's a tremendous amount of time and service to the town. Thank you so very much. The next one, I'll be headed back, that's where I'm not sitting, is the 2015-2016 Community Appearance Awards presentations. And Sue Kelly, the chairman of the Community Appearance Committee, he'll join me at the podium and we'll do those awards. They're there. Do that way. Sure.
Good evening. The Community Appearance Commission was created in 2012, and this is the second time we have, in most modern history, given the Community Appearance Award. It was something the town did years ago, and for whatever reason stopped, and we thought it was a great thing to do. So what we have tonight are the nominees and the winner of the Community Appearance Award for the most attractive business and also the most improved business. Now, there were 2 goals with this award. One was to recognize businesses who contribute positively to the town's appearance. And the second goal is to provide positive, non-regulatory encouragement to improve the overall appearance of Kill Devil Hills. So it's our pleasure to give these tonight. First, we'll begin with the nominees.
So the first nominee for the Community Appearance Award is for Wichard and Bullard. So they are just around the corner, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Are you all familiar with where their site is? Just around the corner. You guys have done a great job with that site. Next is Surf Pediatrics and Medicine, and Joy Legay called just before the meeting. Dr. Legay and his wife Joy, they're not able to make it, but they're right on the main bypass there. They did some nice improvements this year. Next is Dairy Queen. Who is anyone here from Dairy Queen? Let's see. Okay. Flying Fish Cafe. Okay. Nag's Head Hammocks. 17th Street Surf Shop. We will get all of these nominees their certificates. Southern Bank. The Cypress House Inn. Congratulations, and thank you all for being here this evening. Congratulations, and thank you very much. Coastal Fast Lube. Not here this evening, I know. Julie's Outdoor Enhancement. And I think this it's gonna be for the most improved.
Okay.
So, the winner for the most improved was, Rooster's Southern Kitchen. Let's see them. Are you accepting on their behalf? Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
And I guess when you all did the awards, you really were going by the outdoor appearance with this.
Oh, yes.
But if you haven't been in and to check the indoor appearance at Roosters as well, it's very well done inside as well. It's really some nice improvements.
I have mentioned the criteria for the selection.
Sure, that would be great.
If you're interested, the criteria that we used in making the judgments on these awards are architecture, harmony with natural surroundings, landscaping, signage, lighting, general maintenance and cleanliness of the site, amenities, parking, and off-site impression.
Thank you. And for those who received the recognition, and certainly for those who took their time to come out this evening, we really do appreciate it. One, that you take the interest and pride in doing that for your business, but what that does for our overall appearance for the town of Kettle Hills, and we all find that very special and appreciate your hard work, because we know it sometimes is going above and beyond to do that. And this year's overall winner for the Community Appearance Award. Do you have that first?
You did that.
Yes.
Okay. Go for
And
it.
I don't see it here. For Shutters Hotel, did they send a representative? Shutters, let's see, Nick's not here, so. Well, we will definitely have to get this to them, but Shutters Hotel was the overall Community Appearance Award winner. So they will have this to put in their hotel in the lobby. We will get that to them. Thank you all to the committee for your hard work in doing this. Thank you, Sue. I've gotten used to carrying an iPad around. Okay, I'm gonna stay one more time up here for this next agenda item as well. Moving on this evening, is you probably noticed all of our special guests here that we have. Tonight is a proclamation in honor of the Kettleville Hills Fire Department's 60th anniversary. This year marks the 60th years of service for the town of Kettleville Hills, for the Kettleville Hills Fire Department. It's an honor this evening to request and recommend that the Board of Commissioners adopt the resolution which recognizes our fire department on this major anniversary. If I could, actually, I'm sorry if I'm gonna impose, but I guess I have a little bit of latitude to do that. Would you all mind going to the front of the room so we can recognize you appropriately instead of being in the back of the room? You'll just come right in front. Thank you. Good evening, thank you. Yes,
I was
absolutely.
gonna
And
get them up here.
you guys can squish. We can make 2 rows.
You guys are now coordinating.
So I would like to read the resolution and then we'll make a motion or move forward with adopting this. So, whereas a volunteer fire department was established in 1953 that served portions of the northern Dare County Outer Banks, including Kildable Hills. And whereas on February 9, 1956, an ordinance was unanimously adopted by the Kildable Hills Board of Commissioners, which officially established the Kildable Hills Volunteer Fire Department. And whereas in 1982, the first paid fire inspector, Craig Clark, in Dare County was hired by the town of Kildable Hills, which initiated our strong inspection community prevention program that continues to function so proficiently today. And whereas, in true Kildable Hills fashion throughout its history, the fire department proudly set a high standard for quality of service and innovation that included being the first department to address the needs for an aerial device in Dare County with the 1980 purchase of an American LaFrance Telesquirt with a 55-foot ladder and aerial fire stream, which combined an aerial device, pump, hose, and water tank that gave our firefighters needed flexibility on the fire grounds that was not yet available to other departments in Dare County. And utilizing the fire inspector to document apparatus, fire department responses, training, maintenance, and improvements made to the town of Kildable Hills water system, all in order to achieve the well-deserved ISO rating of 4, which we maintain today. Being the first in our area to contract for a part-time fire chief position that in 1986 became the first full-time paid chief position held by William E. Guard. Being the first Dare County Fire Department on January 13, 1986, to add a career personnel to our volunteer personnel, which created what is known as a combination fire department, thus allowing the KDH Fire Department the quick response of in-house personnel and the economy of qualified volunteer firefighters. And adding an in-house ocean rescue division in 2001, which gave the department the multifunctional expertise to perform ocean patrol and rescue, along with land-based emergency response. And whereas today the town of Kildable Hills Fire Department includes 21 paid employees with a fire chief, deputy chief, fire marshal, 3 fire captains, 3 fire sergeants, 11 firefighters, and 1 administrative specialist. The volunteer company includes 27 members, and whereas all career and volunteer members belong to the unique, professional, modern, dedicated, caring, full-service fire and rescue team that meets the ever-growing and changing needs of our dynamic municipality. Now, therefore, the Kildable Hills Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim Tuesday, February 9th, 2016 as the 60th anniversary of the Kildable Hills Fire Department. And be it further proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners that all Kildable Hills firefighters, career and volunteer, all Ocean Rescue Division responders, all fire support group members, and all fire auxiliary personnel, all who remember the past and look forward to the department's successes of the future, are hereby especially recognized as the Kildable Hills bravest this 8th day of February 2016. And with that, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this proclamation.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The proclamation is adopted. Thank you so much, Melanie. round of applause for. Any comments?
Mayor, Board of Commissioners, I just want to say thank y'all for recognizing this hard-working group. It's an honor and pleasure just to be a part of it. And we really do look forward to the future and thank the past firefighters because we are just following your footsteps. And thank you all for what you do for our community, what y'all have done for our community in the past. Thank y'all.
Play so nice, man. Thank you.
I don't want to run you. I will. Yeah.
He still looks like a DM to our head.
I know. Hey.
Tell your wife about it.
Okay, we will move on with our agenda. The next item this evening is under old business. Item number 1 is the crosswalk study. Some of you may recall back in September, we received a report from Pete Berkheimer, our town engineer. This was in response to a request based on a meeting we had back in June 8th to do a study and provide us with information about signage that would help promote motorist and pedestrian safety. There was a lot of information that Pete provided to us that evening, a very comprehensive study, and we had decided that night to put it back on a future agenda to decide what direction we wanted to go in. Obviously, whatever we do would have budget implications, so this is kind of a time to make a decision if we're prepared to do so, so we can add that into the budget guidance as we're asking staff to start preparing that for us. Pete is with us this evening. If you have questions, our iPads were loaded with all of the information that was presented back at the September meeting. There was pictures and of all the different ideas. There were a couple of, basically boiled it down to a couple of recommendations. Well, one that if you, talking about signage, and I guess there were one of the things we had recommended, or I think you had seen, Mike, was putting like in the middle of the street, those markers, and Pete had identified through the study, I guess, 4 potential places. But if you did that, then you're not having consistency, and so that really wasn't necessarily the overall recommendation. So I will pause for a minute and let's just pick up our discussion and see from when we met back in September. Anyone has any thoughts or suggestions?
Okay. One thing I did want to mention first of all, and it's about crosswalks. It's not directly related to this study, but something I kept forgetting to mention that over at Ocean Bay Boulevard, the parking lot is there. Now the crosswalk where you push the button is right there in front of the Stop and Shop, but the parking lot is on the corner. If you park in our parking lot there, it's on the northwest side, you have to cross Ocean Bay, and there's no signal there for pedestrians. Or you cross the beach road, on the northern end, and there's no signal there either. So you end up either crossing a road where the signal isn't. Either way, you have to do that to get to the button. So, I don't know whether they want two buttons at the same intersection, one on the north, one on the south or not, but, that's a bit of a problem because you have to kind of scamper across the street to get over to the push button thing. Let's see. The other thing was, Pete, if I'm correct, that the First Street to Asheville, the distance between crosswalks is 2,470 feet. That's correct, I assume, and I would think we would want to, like I believe you suggested, to put crosswalk at Raleigh or Sutton. Also, I think it'd behoove us to put one also at Atlantic Street. There's another area where it's quite a distance between crosswalks. And also have it here that we nixed the idea of the in-street signage because of the problems that came about. I also wanted to ask, I don't know what the rules are for the MUTCD, but the color of the longitudinal markings, are they always white?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, then I'll scratch yellow off of here. Let me see, I have some, I noted some things here by, how you had them listed on here. I have B, let me see, bear with me here with this system we're getting used to. Let's see, B1, that's not the one. I don't know what that is. If I find it, I'll get back to you. The other thing I wanted to mention was, one of the things I wanted to mention, and I didn't find it right here, but I feel strongly about the LEDs on the signs. And I know they're not, you know, they're expensive, pretty much, whichever direction you want to go in. And I don't know that they'd have to be at all of them. That's a question I think we could maybe discuss with you, Pete, whether or not it's necessary to have that, or would having them at half of them or a portion of them, would that make people aware that there's other ones that maybe aren't lighted? I don't know, or would they think that the only ones they have to stop at are the ones that are lighted? So
We'd be concerned about this latter conclusion.
yes, right. So if we do it, then we may have to do it to all of them, which the expense would be great, but I don't know if we'd have to do it all at once or not. I also had a question about the grant money that might be available. We'll have to look into that. And I believe we did kind of touch on it once before, and there's not a lot of it out there, I don't think, but maybe we can find some. And I was kind of impressed by the information that's in that U.S. Department of Transportation brochure about the reduction in speed and people stopping at the ones that are LED lit, and 28.9% were ones that actually stopped or something, and then the other one was after people slowed down considerably before they went through. Is that correct? Sort of.
I believe it is, Commissioner Hope.
And we did get some costs for the LEDs, and I found one that's the only one I could find. There was a lot of them online, but they didn't give prices. You had to call or do something for a quote, but it was around $1,400 and $1,500, and I understand that they can go up much higher than that if you want the kind that you have today.
If I may, we think that, first of all, every crosswalk needs two, one for each approach direction. There's two signs. If you use the push buttons, it's two sets of push buttons, one for each side of the road associated with each sign. But the cost per sign is about $1,400. Now, this is before we add in a little money to buy the post and both to mount the sign and the push button, if you do use a push button. But for planning purposes, you could say approximately $3,000 to do a crosswalk with just the constant flashing, 24/7 flashing signs. They're not on a day-night timer. They flash about once every second, all day long, all night long. Increase that to about $5,000 per crosswalk where you add the push button. And one other thing, if I might just throw into the mix, obviously there's a concern. Driver expectancy is an established principle in traffic engineering. You want the driver to get used to a certain situation being treated in a certain consistent way. And one concern we have, it absolutely feeds into what makes me happy to be a leader, to help Kildello Hills be a leader in this. You know, I love the fact that our town rates better than our neighbors, and that's a source of great sense of accomplishment for me on your behalf for what we've been able to do together. But it's a little different when you come to the traveling public. Whatever you do, and I think letting the LED bordered signs be the centerpiece of our upgraded crosswalk protection effort is a great idea. But it seems to me we ought at least to consider reaching out to the abutting towns to the north and south and seeing if we can get some consensus there. I know that our hosts who own that right of way and own and maintain the street, NCDOT, are big promoters of consistency and consistent driver expectations. And that may play in. I don't know whether this could be the subject of a tourism board grant or some other DOT type funding or whatever. There's somebody in this room who's the grant queen, and it's not me. Who she is. I know she knows who she is. Sitting at the end.
Look around, you know it is.
If the shoe fits, wear it. Yeah. Anyway, we've identified the correct person. That's not a particular skill I have, but we can get that done as part of the team. But I would just want the board to take that to heart, that before we go show everybody up and do a great grand thing that would improve safety for our folks, how sad would it be if that began to develop a sense that once you pass that imaginary line at milepost 5, or not so imaginary line, that the crosswalks in Kitty Hawk aren't important and somebody got glazed over and a bad thing happened in Kitty Hawk, or vice versa in the south. So I absolutely, if I were you, I'd like to see you put some money in the budget for it, once we crystallize on exactly what it is you want to do, and then perhaps call a little committee meeting of the directors of public works or services, whatever it is in a given town, and or the town managers, maybe with Jason Davidson from NCDOT in attendance, and see if we couldn't get some buy-in. These things are expensive. If you did them all with all the push buttons and you added a couple, then you'd be up maybe around probably 85 grand to do the whole town. Maybe 60% of that if you don't do the push buttons. But in a similar spirit, if you just do the ones that are flashing all the time, I think you may get another different flavor of the same sort of glazed over situation. In other words, people are used to seeing them flash all the time, whether there's anybody crossing or not, and they become kind of like that silly commercial about getting nose blind. They sort of become crosswalk blind. And so, to my way of thinking, push button activated, probably at all of them. Because how do you decide which one is less important? And hopefully with some cooperation or coordination with our neighbors. That'd be the vision that comes to my mind.
Yeah, it'd be 85,000, I figured, with all of them. But we have two that are that have the. There's two of them that are
Yes,
Pardon me? Signalized, yeah. So, I don't know if they would need it or not, but if that's the case, if they don't, then that would be $75,000, 5,000 times.
But then there's the additional ones that you were talking about to shorten the gaps.
Yeah, right, well, that's true, you're right, thank you. By the way, I did happen to notice when I was doing the research on this that there's, several, companies that have, the ones that blink all the time, or maybe even the ones that you activate, at night, the lights are dimmed, so that they're not, so they're still visible at night, but they're not as bright as during the day, because that would kind of be blinding. So that's one thing you can do. And the other thing is, you can adjust them for how often they blink. Originally, I think they were set, like you said, at a set, but now they've come to where you have a very simple adjustment. You can make it every 3 seconds or 5 or whatever you want to do. And of course, that kind of stuff, I think adds cost to it. But if we're looking at $85,000 to do the town, I don't think that's a lot of money for safety, personally. Depends on the consensus of the board, obviously, but, this is not something that we talked about it last summer when we talked about doing the study. It isn't something we wanna jump on after something happens. So, if we think we might end up doing it anyway because we have to, because something happened, then why not just do it? I mean,
I certainly endorse that thinking. What you seem to be doing, if the consensus of the board gels around what you just said, Commissioner Hogan, then what seems to me to be the right thing to do, I mean, we gave you a pretty broad menu of options, and you seem to be focusing on one, and we completely support that. But it wouldn't take us very long at all to develop a very specific, not a design per se, but a specific packaging up of what that exact program might cost. We did a little work on that, Steve and I did today, and we're in the ballpark. I mean, if you said, give us a program that included all the elements that you've just listed, and all of the existing crosswalks, plus a couple of proposed new ones, possibly with 2 more of the, or 3 more of the cheaper ones to give a little bit more intensity or effectiveness if there was a way to do it at the signalized crossing. I don't know whether there's a way to sync them up with the signals or not. Or maybe it's not necessary because you know you're to expect signals. When you push a button at a signal, you get a red light, and maybe that trumps the need for LED signs. So if you said, for example, let's budget approximately $85,000 for this, and Pete, you and Steve go make it real, or more real than it is now, we could do that, be back to you very quickly.
is there anything like, economies of scale when you buy these things, or, I mean, if you get 15 of them?
I think you might get a little discount from it. And there's also some advantages in buying direct from the supplier. We saw some spreads of a few $100s that way, and we weren't trying to tell you the absolute bottom dollar, trying to leave a little bit of money in there for buying the post and that sort of thing.
Well, we could put them up ourselves, it wouldn't be any problem,
Yes.
sure, yeah. And we would definitely go with the solar too, I
Right.
would think.
So, and you don't have to run wires from the push button to the instrument, excuse me, there's a little, short-range radio transmitter that goes with them. So you don't have to be tunneling wires under pavement and that sort of thing.
Yeah, there was a part in here where I'm looking, and again, I apologize for not getting quite used to this thing yet, but, where you said in there that you strongly suggest the LEDs, or more or less, I'm paraphrasing, is that correct?
That's a fair statement of my position now. I mean, this started as a study to see if we met the warrant or the justifications and conditions for the in-street signs that you see up in Southern Shores and other places. The problem is those tend to work at their best in mid-block situations. And we have a few of those, but most of them are not. So I think all things considered, the greatest bang for the buck would be in push-button actuated LED signs, and whether we do the yellow or the yellow-green, I think is probably the yellow-green. That's consistent with what we already have. We're just essentially replacing yellow-green stationary non-lit signs with yellow-green LED outline signs and a push button.
One last thing, that was mentioned that when you talked about the issues between, with people getting ready to cross and they have a group of people and they're standing there and cars stop and they're not ready yet or something like that. I don't know how if it's recommended or not, but if you had a sign on there facing the walkway that said, don't activate this until you're ready to cross,
Well,
sort of something like that.
Most of you who've come to know me know that I'm not a man of few words. You probably want to throw in a couple of $100 extra for every crossing for the sign that I was envisioning that had the Great American Novel on there, just sort of a tips and tricks or points for how to cross. But seriously, some sort of educational process and public service announcements and that sort of thing would be part of it. And I think it may be that at least at some of the busier ones, you could put a sign with 4 or 5 bullets. Stay with your party. Don't push the button until everybody's ready to cross. Blah blah blah. That sort of thing. But these are the types of things that we would detail up for you if the consensus is to go in this direction.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you, Pete.
Yes, sir.
I like the push button LEDs. I saw those work in Colorado, and that's people trying to navigate a roundabout with snow and ice on it. So I think this is definitely the direction we should go.
Yeah, they had them in Sedona too. We vacationed there last year in Arizona, and because they're real busy downtown, and it was great. It really worked out well.
It's funny we hadn't talked about this at all, and we kind of all gravitated towards the same thing, because I printed mine out. I'm sorry, I'm not used to this yet, so I circled the LED. I do kind of agree with you though. I like the constant blinking light, but I think it's great for awareness, but I think people become desensitized. That's what you were talking about. I think once they see it over and over and over, it's great for that initial awareness, but I think once they see it over and over, it's not gonna, it's just, they're gonna blank out towards it. So I think you're right. The push button is gonna have to be what, it's gonna be the only way where it's really effective. So I tend to agree with everything else that you've said. So, but I do agree also with what you were talking about with consistency within the municipalities, because I think sometimes we act unilaterally within what we do. We have to do that, but I think we do need to at least reach out to our northern and southern neighbors and at least try. And maybe this is something, like you said, that we can work towards grant. And if that works, that would be great, because safety is a paramount thing, and to be proactive versus reactive would be terrific, and that would be something you'd love to be on the front page for versus the other. So I think that would be something that I would really like to work towards.
Pete, what was the price difference for the motion sensor versus the push button? Was the motion sensor the most expensive?
It was, and the vendor that we've spoken with recommends that it's a cumulative thing. You start with the base unit. Now sadly, you don't make these additions in the field very gracefully. But you do the push button without motion sensor, or you do the motion sensor but with a push button just in case. Those of us who've been around motion sensing lights, outdoor security lights and that sort of thing know that technology has come a long way, but it isn't perfect. We have fog sometimes, you might have bug goo accumulation or who knows what. And you always want the ability that if it isn't seeing you, you push the button. Now, in very simple round numbers, it's like 3,000, 5,000, 7,000. So you're gonna have a 40% increase in your total cost if you try the motion sensors. And sadly, and maybe we need to check with more vendors, but with the one we were leaning on, it didn't seem like you could just plug a module in later and upgrade from the 5,000 to the 7,000.
But, and that was gonna be my other question, not from the 5 to the 7, but from the 3 to the 5. If you went with constantly blinking and then tried, but I think you've already answered the question.
Well-
You really can't add in the field the push button.
This one vendor to whom we spoke said that. Now, maybe if we check around and do a little more research, maybe we can find somebody that can be a little more modular, plug and play, and upgrade as you go. But I really do think the desensitization, and perhaps even the adjacent property owner reaction, could be an issue with the constantly blinking, it's day and night. And at a minimum, that argues for Commissioner Hogan's point about those that auto dim when it's nighttime.
It's gonna increase your price too. Yeah, there was
Maybe.
one I saw, the only one that I saw that had prices, had, they had the 1425 for the signs, and then it had a kit that was $995 where you could push the put the push button on it, so I think it's upgradable maybe, I don't know for sure.
Well,
It could be. Maybe that manufacturer it is and some it isn't, I don't know.
Well, it sounds like there's at least consensus on the concept. I think that it's gonna boil down to, at the decision time for the budget, if we're adding this, at what, are we cutting something, or are we adding this to the budget?
So could we ask, come up with like 3 different options, which obviously be 3 different prices? You know, just the blinking lights, maybe dimmable at night, and then next step would be maybe the push button, and then might be the active, motion activated, which I don't know that we need personally, but, just get an idea. And if we check with enough vendors where we can talk about the economies of scale, like I mentioned, maybe we can do a little better than that.
Debbie, what's the, best way to provide the direction that's needed to get some figures before budget workshop time?
Well, I guess I have a couple of thoughts. One, is there interest in the board in what Pete was saying about the concern, if we have this elaborate system that starts in Kildouble Hills and goes north and then stops, I agree with Pete. I think that's gonna be a concern of DOT's, and that is their right of way. And whatever we do, we have to have their permission. So that being said, then I guess as far as for budget purposes, as Pete was saying, with some guidance from the board, we can come back to you, within the time frame of the budget with, some options. And, then from there you can give us some direction on the amount. I do think that it's one of those things, as, was stated earlier, that you would want to do them all at one time. You wouldn't want to phase it. And, certainly is something that whether the board would like for the public services folks to get together or the managers to get together, that we would certainly be happy to speak with Nags Head and Kitty Hawk.
I guess really the first step is having those conversations, because based on whether there's willingness to consider that, then the next step is the NCDOT conversation. And then the third step is the pricing and budgeting.
Would it help us if we had our figures down so that when we went to the other towns, we could say, here's what it is? I don't know. Maybe the state first, because if they're not gonna let us do it, why bother?
Well,
We've had some conversation, as you see in the email with Jeff Davison, that was when they were talking about working with the town and examining areas of grant and other funding sources. I certainly would think that we would want to, look for any opportunity to get grant funds or other funding.
Well, whatever you think's best, whatever you think.
Well, I think having the town manager start with the conversations with the other, you guys, I'm not sure when your next lunch meeting is coming up, but you meet every month.
Yes, ma'am.
Start the conversation there.
We'll do. have some complaints if they're constantly 24-hour-a-day blinking. So we can come together, we can get together and come up with a couple of different options for pricing and have the conversation with the other, with Nags Head and Kitty Hawk, and continue our conversation with DOT.
Yeah. Perfect, as
Thank you.
usual.
Pete, thank you again.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Yes, ma'am. And if Pete can hang with us, he's next too.
Alright, we will move right along then. Pete, back to you, but under new business, item number 1 is the street improvement recommendation for fiscal year 16-17. Alright, so, we have the recommendation that was forwarded to us by the Street Improvement Special Project Committee. And Pete, do you wanna kinda touch on the highlights of those for what's recommended for the 16-17 budget?
Sure. I can never do this without complimenting you on just how much good work you do get done. It's our honor to be a part of getting it done and getting it done cost effectively. Commissioner Hogan and I shared a thought at the Street Improvement Special Projects Committee that it's important to conserve money, but sometimes it's more important that you get good value for every dollar you do spend than it is to spend the lowest possible number of dollars. We continue to make great progress in reducing the number of streets in the poor category, according to our street condition rating process, which was last done in 2012. The project set that is up this time, based on our recommendation, is sort of centered in the middle of town. The big roads are Mustian Street right near the town hall, West Clark Street, and West Carlton, which is which branches off of Mustian. There's by the post office. And then 3 little courts in First Flight Village, Cook, Anchor, and Scooter. And there's my proposal in there for the design and bidding of that. And again, this will take another, 60% of a mile or so of poor streets off the books and bring them up to new condition. And there are others. We want to get to 3rd Street soon, maybe not this coming fiscal year, but the 3rd fiscal. If you call the one we're talking about now 1, maybe around year 3 we would get to 3rd and some other, maybe Haymans and a few other of the poors that are left. It's pretty soon, maybe perhaps as soon as 5 years out, that we'll be down to the point where all of our streets that are poor because they were built substandardly, if that's a word, are done. And all we'll have is streets that where the surface is oxidized, and all they need is a simple overlay. And that'll be a beautiful day when we get to that point. The recommendation for the following fiscal year is that we see if we can get grant funding to support, not totally accomplish, but to strongly support the construction of the remainder of the Bay Drive multi-use path. That's a lot of work. It's a couple $1 million worth of work. We had applied for is it a Cardiff grant, Meredith, and that wasn't awarded this year, but persistence tends to pay in those sorts of things. And I know there are those of us who feel that we need to make a strong run at the tourism board, because this is a beautiful thing. You know, I'm going to ask you to indulge me in a couple of minutes when I'm through with this and through with your questions to bring up the president of American Engineering, Scott Stone, who's here tonight from Charlotte. And I took him on a tour, and here we are on a cold February day, and there were about 5 different parties using the path as we drove it all the way from the Kitty Hawk line down to Landing, probably a couple more down towards the tail end. So it's being used, it's been well received. I think we've proven to folks that we can fit it in without wrecking everybody's life and get it within the 50-foot right of way. And I'd love to be about getting it done if we can find the money to do it. So the suggestion was that be our target goal for the following year, but that, but because we have the grant funding application process to go through, and that requires longer than our normal design cycle. And if for some reason we aren't able to arrange the total funding for it in that second year, that the third year project, Third and Hayman or whatever's next on the list, drops down to take that place. But we don't want to let it get to be too long before we revisit the path. We did phase one of it, designed it in '07, built it in '08. Then we skipped down to phase 5, the First Street section. We designed that in 9, 10, and 11. Went through the more elaborate DOT approval process. Then we came back and did phase 2 in 13, from Nixonton on down to Avalon. Phase 6, I guess you would call it, is the path that goes from the cul-de-sac at First over to Collington Road, if you put them in numerical order from south to north. So when we build this section, you'll have like 4+ miles of continuous wide path from the Kitty Hawk line all the way well down into the school and municipal complex. And that would be a wonderful thing, as our experience has already shown us. So those were the two key points of the recommendations: approving the Mustian, Carlton, Clark package to be the upcoming year's package, and authorize American to design it, and then authorize the staff to get going to find all the funding we can for the remaining phases of the path.
And Pete, I thought I heard you say that the multi-use path is gonna be a couple million, but I was thinking it was 900,000 for this, that phase.
If we did all of it, if we did all, and of course, that's a couple of million before you get any grant funding.
Don't forget the street and drainage improvements.
Yes.
Included in that project. Taking care of some.
That's right, by all means.
Right, so is that what's, so the actual sidewalk maybe is where I'm thinking the 900,000,
That
but
could very
street
well be.
drainage associated with that takes it to a couple million.
Pete, she's thinking, the part of grant that you approved for us to apply for last time only went to 4th Street, and that was the $900,000. We applied for a part of grant to get us the path to 4th Street, and what we're asking for now is to go ahead and take that path from 1st Street all the way to Avalon.
Which is phase 4 and phase 3.
So we were, the application we made to the PARTF last year was only phase 4. So that's where that number's coming from, and it was around about that number, to get it done. And what we're looking at is trying to expand that to go ahead and finish Bay Drive so that it's complete.
I've been getting more and more questions, it seems like
Tissue.
3 to 4 months about when we will wrap up the Bay Drive.
I'm a little on the high side with that. If you happen to have your copy of the multicolored, ridiculously excessively multicolored spreadsheet with you, on the first page you see 1617, which is the Mustian, Clark, Carlton, etc. package. Then 1718 has the Bay Drive Path Phase 4, which was 914 total. And then if you get down into the blue section below, actually it's sort of a gray shaded area, multi-use path phase 3 is 704. So it's about 1.6, 1.7 if you add the two together, although there may be some additional economies of scale if they're done together. But so it's, it all depends on how much grant funding you get. And by the way, we don't touch anything like that unless we do everything that we're going to do in that right of way now. In order to fit in, we typically have to widen the road to the east to create a little extra room on the west side to fit in a 5-foot green strip and a 10-foot path, plus about 2 feet of tie-in zone to tie to the neighbor's property. So, but while we're doing that to the street, we also bring it up to new condition as well. And we're not going to leave it undrained. Our sock drain system that makes Kildover Hills look so much drier on a day after a bunch of rain than some of our neighbors, sorry neighbors, this is going out over the air, isn't it? Sorry, folks. Anyway, that drainage system that we use is incorporated into all of our multi-use path designs. So you get that as benefits too. We'll do road improvements, a new path, and drainage improvements while we're there. And if there were any asbestos cement water main, we do that too, but that's not the case in these remaining sections.
Questions for Pete or staff? The elevated water tank that's on that chart for the fire department replacing that. And I know that's not on the recommendation for tonight, but I'm just curious, because originally it was kind of on the master chart for fiscal year 17-18. Is that something that we really do have to start thinking of when we're going to budget for that? I mean, it's gonna be a matter of at some point it has to be done. Do we know yet what's the urgency or when that will become more of an urgent issue? Cause that's a hefty price tag.
If I may, it is, here comes Steve. It's in the water system master plan that your other firm developed for you. Go ahead, Steve, why don't you address that? Give me a break here.
Yeah, that was part of the water system master plan, and actually it was identified in there to finance that. The largest of the capital improvements would be financed.
Okay, so the overall water plan that we've adopted, that's in there, and so that schedule is in there? I can't remember,
Yes.
Schedule for when we're gonna have to start planning that out and financing it.
Yeah, and that actually impacted rates. There was the 4% annual increase if we would finance the largest, or it was a 5.5% annual increase if we wanted to pay as we went.
One last thing on that, Mayor. I don't think anybody could honestly tell you that you're in great shape if you do that next year or 2 years out. But if you wait 3 years out, Armageddon occurs. Nobody would suggest that. But it is a 50-plus-year-old tank, and you don't want to paint it again. Okay?
Right.
It costs a lot of money to recoat one of those tanks, especially with a coating that's appropriate for our corrosive environment. So it's not desperate for coating now, but you want to have the new one designed and ready to go in before you need to paint the old one.
Yeah, the coating is getting close to the end. If you look at it when you ride by, there's some corrosion apparent, and it's between $400,000 and $500,000 to recoat, as opposed to $2 million for the replacement. So we would like to, as that coating life gets to the end, that we're in the process of replacing it.
Debbie, when we have our budget workshop, can you help us by bringing that back on what our timeline is and with the financing, what we, I just don't remember off the top of my head.
Is there?
The timeline. Okay, great, thank you. Well, if we're prepared, a motion would be in order.
Well, the Street Improvements Committee, the Special Projects Committee forwarded the recommendations as you see on your agenda there. And Pete went through how that would be done. And it's a change from what the original plan was with, putting these two together. What is it, 3 and 4? 3 and 4, yeah, putting them together. And that was the recommendation of the subcommittee. So if there's, I'd be willing to make a motion on that behalf if you all would listen to it. If that's the case, then I'd like to make a motion that we follow the recommendations of the Street Improvement Special Projects Subcommittee regarding the street improvements for 2016-17 and 2017-18 for the Bay Drive multi-use path. Is that enough for you, Mary? No? What do you want?
These,
Just say as outlined in the town manager's memo, please. That'll cover all the other stuff.
It's outlined in the town manager's memo.
okay, there's a motion,
I'll second.
any discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Thank you, and Pete, you want to?
I do. Thank you for that indulgence. As I think the Board of Commissioners knows at some degree of detail, Engineering Services and its North Carolina operating unit, Engineering Services of Virginia, Inc., ceased the practice of engineering on November 12th, 2014, and sold our assets to American Engineering Associates of Charlotte. We are now a goodly ways into that, and I'm glad to get our president, Scott Stone, over here to recognize one of our most important clients and just say a couple of words to you about how much he appreciates the business and to share his commitment to you for the future. Scott?
Thank you, Pete, and thank you for giving me the moment to speak here. First, let me apologize for not having come here sooner. We're about a year into this venture with Pete, and it's been a great relationship we've had over the last year, but I've been remiss in not being here sooner. So it is not a reflection on how important you all are to us as a firm. American Engineering is a Charlotte-based company, so we're a North Carolina firm, and we do work throughout the entire southeastern United States. But the kinds of work that we do for you is very similar to what we do for other municipalities as well. There are a lot of firms that do national work, and we compete with some of the biggest firms in the country, and some of them would not want to do small projects or for small municipalities, whereas we see this as is absolutely in our sweet spot, and we will continue to do that. And we work for big municipalities, but we also really appreciate the work we do with you. We know how Pete has served you so well over the last many years. If I had my way, we would continue to have Pete serving you for the next 20 years as well, but I don't know if he's going to want to continue to work that long. What I think you'll find, or I hope you'll find, over the next few months and few years is you'll see not Pete going anywhere. Hopefully he's going to be around for a little while, but you'll see more Petes. I mean, there's no other Pete. Let's be clear about that. But we have a lot of depth and great experience. As a firm, we do a lot of work, for example, for NCDOT. We just won a contract as a sub to Lewis Berger, doing engineering, highway design work for in the eastern region of North Carolina. So we'll be doing some of that work, hopefully in this part of the state as well, through that contract. So you'll be seeing more of us, hopefully not less of us. And we hope this relationship that we've had with you continues to go on for years and years. And you'll see more and more of our depth and our capabilities as time goes on. And we just hope we can continue to serve you as well as Pete has served you and Engineering Services had for so many years. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving us that time.
All right, we'll move then on to new business item number 2. We have 3 appointments to various boards. So we're pulling this up. First one is an appointment to the Board of Adjustment. Thank you. Okay. The first appointment this evening is an appointment to the Board of Adjustment. It's for one regular position. And the position is, in light of Joe Agnew's resignation from the planning board, it left one seat vacant. Tony Dorn has expressed an interest in being appointed to this position that would then expire in June of 2018. With that, we could take a motion to.
I make a motion we accept Tony Dorn's appointment to the board.
Okay, there's a motion to nominate Tony Dorn. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. The next appointment is to the planning board. Howard Buchanan, that's the seat he's currently serving in. He wishes to be reappointed for another term that would expire in April of 2019. Is there a motion on this appointment?
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Howard Buchanan to the planning board.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the third appointment this evening is to the Personnel Board. Christine Stafford's position expires in April this year, and she would like to be considered for reappointment to that with the term expiring in April of 2019. Is there a motion on this board?
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Christine Stafford's appointment to the Personnel Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great, and thank you for all three of those for serving on those boards. Next, we'll move into new business item number 3. This is, first is item A, proposed amendments to the town code. This is chapter 130, general offenses, section 130.02F, noise, subsection 12, exemptions. This is to include beach nourishment services contractors. Basically what this is with the beach nourishment, we have our noise ordinance in place, but beach nourishment services are going to be conducted 24 hours a day. And so this is to provide this as basically an allowable exception, impeding the progress of our beach nourishment once it starts. If any questions on that, we can ask, or otherwise it's, a motion would be in order to establish this exemption.
I make a motion that we adopt the proposed amendment to chapter 130, general offenses, to establish an exemption from noise regulations for beach nourishment service contractors.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great, thank you. And the second one under B is to chapter 153 zoning, section 153.078A, access to US 158 Protein Highway and NC 12 Virginia Dare Trail. This is to clarify regulations to apply only to corner lots and specifically tonight to schedule the public hearing. Brad, do you want to provide a little more background on this specific one?
Not at all.
Thank you.
Basically, what you have now is, if you have a lot that abuts any right of way on 158 and the west side of 12, then you're gonna access from that right of way. That comes up with several of our deep lots, and I'll give you an example, say Wrightsville Avenue, maybe you're in mid-block, and you have a deep lot that butts on Wrightsville Avenue. Well, the current ordinance would require you, if you redevelop or if you're building a new structure, that you have to have your only interest would have to be off Wrightsville Avenue. And it's not really good planning. It doesn't provide for circulation in a lot of cases with a commercial development. And we recommend that it just be on those corner lots that you have the requirement that that's your only access is on the side street.
Any questions? Okay, if not, a motion would be in order. And the motion is to schedule a public hearing.
We're scheduling this for a public hearing. All right, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, for the public hearing to be scheduled for Monday, March 14th at 5:30?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Any discussion or comments? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on then under new business. This is item number 4. A couple of items to discuss with beach nourishment. The first is a resolution directing the application to the Local Government Commission for approval of the special obligation bonds, requesting Local Government Commission approval of the town's special obligation bonds and certain related matters. And Debbie, you want to call any for that?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. The resolution is required to be adopted by the board, for the bonds in an amount not to exceed, $5,200,000 to finance the beach nourishment project and pay the cost of issuing the special obligation bonds. The, resolution gives the staff the authority to submit the application to the local government commission for the financing of the project and to make the findings required by the LGC to support the town's application.
Just part of the legal process to go through.
Yes, ma'am.
Moving forward with our beach nourishment. Any questions for Debbie on this? If not, a motion would be in order to approve the resolution as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And then the second, item on is the agreement between the town of Kettle Hills and Parker Poe, Adams and Bernstein, LLP, to serve as our bond counsel. They're the ones that are assisting us, in developing. They already have helped us with the resolution that you just adopted. But they will be serving as our bond counsel, not just for us, but for Kitty Hawk and Doc on the issuances of the bonds for the beach nourishment project. Our fee is $35,000 plus associated expenses as detailed in the agreement. Parker Poe will also assist the town in obtaining the LGC approval of the project, and we recommend, staff recommends approval of the agreement between the town and Parker Poe for the purpose so stated.
Any questions? A motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
And that motion is to approve the agreement between the town and Parker Poe, Adams and Bernstein, as presented in the packet.
Correct.
Great.
Just for your information, this is the same firm that Dare County, has used before.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. And just real quick while we're on beach nourishment, just kind of an update. Tomorrow, the bids are supposed to be opened. So these are for anyone that's bidding on this work, and this is for the Tri-Town project. Kind of from there, the contract that will be reviewed, and our the firm from Wilmington that's working with us on this will kind of put everything together for review, and hopefully the contract would be awarded sometime by the end of March to one of the firms that hopefully has the best bid. Construction could start as early as April, and one of the things that's in the bids, originally it was that they would have up to a year to complete the projects. There may be a little bit of flexibility in that with some recent kind of addendums that were added, so we'll see if that happens and it's extended to whether it's 14 months or whatnot. It would be because it's such a significant cost savings to be able to add that flexibility, so we'll just see what happens once we get the information out. There have been meetings with town and county folks discussing media releases and preparing to get information to the public as soon as we can. But we really are waiting now on getting the information from the bids, awarding the contract, and then getting that schedule from whoever is selected as the contractor. But as soon as we do, we can get that information released to the public. I know people are very anxious to know when we're starting and where are they starting, and right now we just don't have those answers, but as soon as we do, we will get them out. There's gonna be kind of a concerted effort between the different towns, even though ultimately we're responsible for getting our information out there, but there's gonna be some sharing of release of information. But the county made it clear they don't want folks calling the county if they're curious about what's happening in Kettle Hills, and just same thing with Kitty Hawk or Duck. So we'll each be responsible for our information and as much as possible fielding the calls related to our projects. But just for the public's knowledge right now that we are all working together as collaboratively as possible, because we understand that that information affects multiple players in multiple towns. So more to come, and like I said, hopefully the big news will be by the end of March we have the contractor selected. So Okay, with that, let's move on to new business item number 5. This is the Outer Banks Chamber of Commerce lease agreement renewal. Let's put it up here. Debbie?
Yes, ma'am. April 22nd, 1986, the town and the Outer Banks Chamber entered into a lease agreement for the property where the chamber building now the chamber occupies now. The first renewal was for 10-year period in April 1st, 96, second in 2006. This will be the third of 5 renewals authorized by paragraph 3 of the original agreement. In accordance with the provisions of North Carolina General Statute 168-272, the town must publish a notice of intent at least 10 days prior to taking action being taken to renew the lease agreement for another 10 years, beginning April 1st, 2016. Staff recommends approval of the attached public notice announcing this intent required by the statute, and a motion would be in order. The resolution renewing the lease agreement between the town and the Outer Banks Chamber, and the agreement will be placed on the March 14th, 2016 agenda for approval. But this evening, would ask for your approval of the public notice announcing the intent, and a motion would be in order for that.
I'll make a motion we approve the attached public notice announcement announcing the intent required by NCGS 160A-272.
I'll second.
Any question or discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, we're moving on now to Commissioner's agenda. You have something in our packet this
Yes,
evening.
I do. The trash attack will be Saturday, March 12th at the Killable Hills Fire Department at 9 a.m. and the rain date will be March 19th, and there will be refreshments, and it'll probably finish up around 12 to 1. There's also a poster contest. That's for K through 12, is that right? Yeah, for Dare County's kids.
And last year was, well, I guess it was the second year we brought it back, and we had almost double the attendance from the year before, and so hopefully we'll have really great attendance again this coming year. So please mark your calendars. In addition to just being a great thing to help clean up our town, it is fun, believe it or not. Picking up trash can be a lot of fun when you're doing it with friends and neighbors and children. So please mark your calendars and come and join us. And as always with that event, it would not be possible without our great Public Works Department, and thank you all for the support that you provide. And then the staff, or not the staff, the volunteers with the Trash Attack Committee that work under Chris Merrick's leadership with that to make it such a successful event. So,
And Elvis.
and Elvis, of course. That's right. Okay, thank you. Anything else this evening?
No, that's all.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Rubin?
Congratulations to the fire department, 60 years, that's great. Thank you for your service, thanks to everybody, that's terrific. It's great to see everybody up here, that's awesome. It really, it's great to see that. I always enjoy seeing Ocean Rescue, but it's also awesome to see the firefighters up here like that, that's terrific. I also wanted to say congratulations and thanks to those who were here who received those the commendations for all those years of service. You know, it's always amazing to me the people who have served for so many years. You're right, when you add all those years up, it's amazing. So, and for those who were here and those who couldn't be here, congratulations to those, and congratulations on retirement as well. That's great. Jealous.
Thank you.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to Mayor's agenda. In our packet this evening, we'll be, I guess, approving these in just a couple of minutes under the consent agenda for the notes, all the comments from when we had our workshop on the 15th of January for hotel motels. And I just wanted to kind of bring that back for a little bit of discussion this evening on where we want to go with that. I thought it was a really productive workshop. I think as we anticipated going into it, we knew that there would be multiple perspectives on the issue. But I think a couple of reoccurring themes, sorry, all of a sudden I'm really chilly. A couple of reoccurring themes was interest in maybe exploring either a special overlay district or something like that, a special service district, or anyway, I think that came up by several folks. There certainly are folks that are still very adamant. I don't know that that position changed. It hasn't from the land use study to when we had a group, the town had a group a few years ago looking at building height. And after the meeting, I received comments that I don't know that that position's changed on building height on the ocean front, but in a few of the discussions that I had with folks that called wanting to know how the meeting went, and when I shared the discussion about, maybe there would be potentially down the road looking at concessions where, okay, if you did allow this in a special area because we are promoting redevelopment and we really want to, as much as possible, keep the hotel as a stay option, a lodging option in the town, that maybe that would be worth exploring, or at least having these conversations. And the folks that I spoke with, one in particular who had been very adamant against any increase in building height, thought that, yeah, maybe that's a way to look at this. So I bring it back to you all tonight just to put it back up in front of us and say, where do we want to go with this? I think it was left, when we wrapped up the meeting, there could be 3 potential directions to move forward. Well, maybe really 4. One is do nothing. I guess I just threw that in as the 4th, but that is an option, to do nothing. The other was put some type of small task force together that specifically looks at this and tries to come up with some recommendation. That task force made up of possibly a few, maybe a couple of those in development, as well as some citizens that are engaged. So that could be a second option. A third option could be if we had enough direction to provide to staff, that we could provide that direction to staff to take something to the planning board. And then a fourth option is kind of to wait until maybe a builder or someone approaches us with recommendations. My only concern there is I wouldn't want to get caught in a position where we're waiting for a builder to come in and then someone thinks that we're making decisions just to be specifically helpful to one particular builder or entity. Though, if they bring that to us and that's what starts the ball rolling before any of these other options, that's not a bad idea, but I just figured for the point of transparency and disclosure that we should share that there's always a risk when you wait on that people perceive what you're doing maybe not in line with what you're really trying to do. The fact that we're already having this discussion hopefully would set the stage for putting that in full disclosure out front. So those were my thoughts on 4 different potential directions we could go, and wanted to kind of get your input if you had any thoughts as well, or if you think there's another option. Okay. Thoughts, comments?
I don't know how much can be done on the ocean front. I don't know if that could be something that an investor would be able to make profitable. It'd be nice to have it, I think. I believe in having them because they're, for somebody that doesn't want to stay with 20 other families or can't afford to get an oceanfront cottage themselves for a week, it's an option for those people. A lot of times they become regular visitors. And those kind of accommodations are important. And I think we lost about 1/3 of our hotel rooms in the past 10 years in Kill Devil Hills. West side of Beach Road, we had talked some years ago about there was consensus on the planning board and also with a couple members of the board of commissioners that they would be able to have some changes in the regulations that would encourage building a hotel on the west side, maybe a little bit more in height, or not going into any detail, just some other things that might make it attractive for someone to do that. And that could be done in an overlay district, or it could just be done on an individual basis. I think, maybe there's some thought that if somebody has that kind of a facility on the west side, that it would have to be tied into property on the ocean front for their access. No, that's not necessary, I don't think, because there are places that have hotels and don't have their own access that are on the west side. So I think there's some opportunities there. And if somebody comes up with an idea for doing it on the ocean front, then I certainly will look at it.
So, is there any interest in us trying to lead this, or are you all more us wait and receive something?
I would say probably lead, because I don't want to have a situation which you just described, that we are trying to help out one individual as opposed to just anybody walks in, wants to do this.
So what do you suggest?
I don't know.
Well, is there anything, what can we do? I know we can do stuff between the highways on the west side. Is there anything we can do to make it more attractive on the ocean front? I don't know if necessarily we have a lot of leeway there.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know, maybe we do.
You're gonna get pummeled if you do anything with height.
Well, no, that's,
And that's really what they want, so, I mean, because you can't, I don't really think you can do anything if you don't go up. That's what we heard, unless I misunderstood, that's what I heard anyway.
On the oceanfront, and I don't know that we got into enough discussion, or, I mean, not that we didn't get into enough, I don't know that the discussion came together about, because we didn't delve into detail about what potentially could a special district look like, an overlay
Yeah, we
district.
didn't really talk about that.
But the concept was maybe intriguing, because not a lot of us know much about it. Maybe an approach would be kind of a combination of, and I threw out my 4 ideas, the task force or the waiting till a builder comes. Maybe we, between this meeting and our next meeting, we use this as an opportunity to put out a call for interested individuals to let us know if they would like to work together and bring some ideas to us, and maybe we put together, if there are those individual or interested individuals that have ideas to share, and I can think of a couple of folks that come to mind now that had mentioned they were intrigued by this, see if they're willing to come together for a meeting and have just a small group that would look at this and explore it. If we don't have folks that have those ideas, or then we're maybe sitting back waiting for a builder. But maybe that's the combination of approach. So let's see between now and the next meeting if anyone is interested in serving and has some ideas, and they want to contact one of us, or contact Meredith or Greg at the planning department, or Mary at town hall. Let us know you're interested, and then we can maybe schedule, if we get a handful of people, we schedule a meeting with them and see where that conversation leads. Is that maybe an approach we could try? And if no one has any ideas, then we'll just bring this back up again next month and see if we're in the holding pattern until a builder comes. But let's see. What do you think? Okay?
yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think we need some input.
And Philip, we would appreciate if you help us get the word out as well. That would be great. So thank you. Great. Okay, that was all I had this evening. Move to town manager's agenda.
Yes, ma'am, I actually have it unprinted items, and I'll try to find it on your iPad. It's not a trick. As you know, we opened the bids for the sidewalk improvement on US 158 last week, and they came in extremely high for the funding that we have, and the grant funding that we received from the Visitors Bureau. We're still working on some potential options, but Meredith had the opportunity to speak with representatives from the Visitors Bureau, and they would be willing to consider a request from the town to transfer, the grant funding, to another area. And what, some of the staff members had been discussing with, Pete, the engineer, perhaps do another, US 158 sidewalk improvement that's not, that's more to the scale of what monies that we have available, through the town and grant funding. And the, if you remember, when we began the sidewalk improvements, we were doing what we referred to as the goat paths. That started, really bringing some of them together. You know, you could see where people would use the areas a lot. And, so the area that was suggested by the staff is up on the, south side, but it's on the east side of the bypass, which would be our first, east side project. But then it would have, then you would have the sidewalk on the east and west side on the south end of town. So what I'd like to, get from you this evening is your permission for us to make that request to the Visitors Bureau, and to I don't wanna say repurpose the money. I mean, we're basically doing the same thing, it's just in a different location. And, I feel that would be something that they would consider. What I would then do is reject the bids that we received last week for the other project, and, maybe come back, excuse me, in the future, with that project more in line with what it's going to cost, and looking at a larger grant for that, as opposed to the town trying to come up with that money with the lesser grant amount. So, so this evening, if I could just get your consensus to do that, we'll follow up with that tomorrow, and, we'll let you, that the Visitors Bureau meets, is the 18th? Yes, the 18th of this month. And, hopefully they will consider that for us, and we would appreciate any help you could give us, Commissioner. So do I have the permission?
Is there consensus to?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to see that program keep going, so definitely.
Casey, anything this evening under town attorney's?
No, ma'am,
No?
nothing for me.
Okay, well, thanks for being with us this evening. And Debbie, I'm sorry, back to you, if you're helping with the consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. The first item is the minutes from the January 11th and January 15th, 2016 meeting. The second is recommendations for the 2015-16 lease purchase agreement. This, the total amount to be financed is $1,638,055. PNC submitted the lowest overall financing cost, $1,126,438.06, at an annual interest rate not to exceed 1.42%, and financing term not to exceed 4 years. And then the second is for the pumper truck, $511,617.14. This is an annual interest rate not to exceed 1.87%, and for a term not to exceed 7 years. The consent agenda approval will also approve the budget amendment in the amount of $1,638.55 to record the annual lease for the equipment and the vehicles, and the accompanying resolutions, and the resolution, excuse me, and the town attorney will review and approve the lease agreement prior to its execution. And then lastly, this is just to record consensus that the board gave me for a refund for water impact fees and other 3 fees that were paid, and then due to unforeseen circumstances, was not needed, and that would just be placed in the record of the meeting. Staff recommends approval of the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. We'll move on to the second time that we have set aside this evening for public comment. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak at this public comment time? Any public folks left in the room? Okay, all right, well with that, we appreciate you all coming out, and a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
All those in favor?